welcome, Vettev. Am
How's
I
it
comfortable
going?
to say it that way?
Yep, that works. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm going to switch this
Wonderful.
back to the non-hype music. Yeah, I know. Neil calls you Vettev, and it's just I'm like, all
Hmm.
right,
Sure.
like it makes sense if I read it out loud, but Vetv sounds so much cooler.
Yeah, that's kind of how I designed it, I guess, was vet,
Oh,
the Corvette, right? And
there you go.
then that wasn't available. So I was like, oh, V works for five, and then it's a palindrome. So it worked out.
Cool, man. Well, let me say this first off the bat. It is a pleasure to have you here. You and I have been talking a lot. I mean, just either through Map Chat or in DMs between us about a lot of different topics within
Hmm.
the game. But I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself in case people here don't know who you are,
Sure.
and then where your Splinterlands journey and where you see things being at the top of 2023 here.
Sure. All right. So I guess this is my second stream. I was on with Neil and Gene Pool before, and folks probably see me around Map Chat. I guess I'd be considered an OG at this time, even though I don't feel like a true OG. I came in right at the end of beta, so September 2019. At that time, I looked at both Gods Unchained and Splinterlands, put the same amount of money in both, and within a week, quickly realized that Splinterlands, I felt, had way more sticking power for a wider group, a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
And from my perspective, it was basically bathroom time, right? You can do a battle in the bathroom.
Yeah.
You can't done Gods Unchained. Like I'm a huge Magic fan from way back. I was in that probably in Revised.
Yeah.
And I guess that's really what catalyzed me to see what was in Web3. I had found 2 boxes of Magic cards that I just carried around between houses for 5-6 moves. And I was like, are these cards worth anything? And they were. And I was like, wait a second. Okay, so now we're in crypto. We're in trading cards. This is what can be the future. Gods Unchained, Splinterlands, 2 biggest names. All right, so which one is going to work? Gods Unchained, it's a Hearthstone. It's pretty much a clone of Hearthstone. I mean, the battlefield looks the same, everything's the same. So I'm like, all right, so who would add the complexity of blockchain, of crypto, of volatility, and then have a worse user experience than just dealing with Hearthstone, even though they keep your assets?
Yeah.
And that's why I think Hearthstone's still so popular. As opposed to Splinterlands, it not only had the quick gameplay, but it had the community behind it. So even coming in at that time, it was, the Daves, the Simply Mikes. I'm on Team Possible, so it's mainly the group I know. But there were a lot of other folks around at that time that, you came in and it was like, oh, new player. Okay, great. Do you have cards? Here's some to delegate. Oh, wait, you can delegate cards? You can do this with no gas fee?
Yeah.
That was huge. So I got very lucky when I came in, and then waited through I would say it was like an extended bear with bull pops from end of 2019 until May 2021.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then when it got to May 2021, SPS was announced. That then brought in that bull run that none of us thought was coming. Like, that was insane. And that also, I think it distracted a little bit from the core of what the game is.
Yeah.
And it also unfortunately brought in a lot of people to see what the opportunity is, but unfortunately introduced them at a time that wasn't sustainable.
Sure.
And so we find ourselves in 2023 on the end of our hangover, right, of coming down. And I think I would say we're at the bottom area. I'm not going to say we haven't bottomed, but this is the area when, I'd be so bold to say fortunes are made on the bottom, right? And so when I came in and I said, all right, I got a couple $100 to put into both games, and I chose Splinterlands and I put in a couple $100 more, it was just building, slowly building. I didn't care what DEC was. I didn't care that much. It was the cards, collect the cards. And so now where we are in 2023, I was excited about this stream because I feel a lot more energy on this stream than has been on the streams before. So that's exciting. There's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff happening.
There is, man, and I'll be the first to say that, it kind of just goes with where the sentiment is, whether that's like the broader market, the crypto market, or stuff within the game. So the holidays were tough, and it's funny because even though I call that out ahead of time, right? Like I think I made a video in like November, and I was just like, I think the next 6 weeks, maybe even like 10 weeks, might be really tough because we're going into the holidays, people are going on break. We just had the layoffs, right? There's not much that's going to be happening. And even though I knew that was going to be the case, I'm sure it came through where I was just like, it's such a grind. When are we going to get some kind of update? DEC is going to fall even lower. SPS is going to a penny, right? Whereas today, probably my mood was improved simply because of the fact that we're seeing some positive stuff in the market. We're seeing CPI a little bit lower. And that goes on top of the fact that we got the roadmap and this really, in my opinion, laser focus from the team on what we're going to get, right? For 2023. And so I don't know. I came in excited. I'm glad you were.
Well, what about the introduction of player proposals, a way for players to propose, and it costs 100,000 DEC? That's huge.
I love it.
I think people are underestimating how big of a step that is for this type of community. I mean, we've always been a community that has been in touch with the developers. The developers have been in touch with the community, and we've been going through this back and forth, waiting in this area of, we'll get to DAO proposals, and but we have to have nodes up and running. We have to all these other things. And I appreciate the team of saying, stop. We can't wait for all lights to be green. Let's just get something working. And Yaba did something great with, all right, so we want to change in this. Let's do a quick Hive vote. 18 hours. Boom. Oh, that actually worked. Community responded positively. Now let's do player proposals. All right, it's 100,000 DEC. And you know what I find really funny? MavChat got really quiet after that.
Well, it's interesting you say that. It's interesting you say that because now, anytime that I'm getting kind of not negative feedback, but just complaining, right? And even let's put it this way: the more obnoxious it is, right, or the less constructive it is, now I get to respond and just be like, well, put up or shut up, right? Throw the proposal out there. If you have a change, if you have an idea that is so good that you're gonna whine and moan about the team doing XYZ, and here's your fantastic idea, pay the 100,000 DEC, put it up there, and see if people will. And I will give you this channel. I will give you this channel as a platform to let everybody know about it, right? Because I believe the best ideas will win. Even if I don't like the idea myself, the best ideas will win. So I'm all for it.
That's a good work, or that's a good relationship between streamers of being able to just present proposals, especially across time zones, right? So we have US based, but then we have Splinter Lands TV going 24/7. Then we should have some times when a representative of that proposal can present it just quickly, just to make sure people have seen it. And then that'll get people engaged. And the fact that people don't go to Hive right now, that's not a reason to not do it there for now. That's a reason to use platforms that people are going to tell them where to go. And then they have a way to engage. And happening already in the background, I've already reviewed a proposal that's going to be coming up soon. So it's in its final draft phase. This is happening. Like, there are proposals that are happening right now.
Can you share it with us or no? Give us a little preview.
I don't want to take the thunder away from the author.
Just a general topic. Okay, fine.
Yeah, the general topic is sustainability of the DAO funds.
Okay.
So it's prioritizing DAO funds for the long term, which the short term cost would be, I would say, returns for the player base. So you'll see it. You'll see it soon.
Like this week soon, or like in a couple weeks soon?
Probably today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, probably today. I mean, when that's the other thing about this community, and again, I don't feel like I'm one of the true OGs, because there are OGs here that are way longer here, way more invested, and way more engaged than I feel I am. They don't wait. Like Level Up Life in the chat, like, he doesn't have a question about what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Today, I'm doing this. There's no waffling about what to do. You pick the target of what you want to do, and you go, and then you adjust. And that's how you can end out better in the end.
Yeah.
A parked car cannot be steered. Be engaged. And then you can steer it. You can move it around. So you were asking about like what are the whales doing in the background? That's one thing. Proposals are already going. I like it's 100,000 DEC. That'll be a couple of million spent on proposals in no time. That's gonna be great.
Yeah.
And then we have that comment about DEC being purchased. It was funny because the big whale that I heard it from, he was like, it feels so weird. I have to go out and buy DEC now, and it was for DECB. Once he saw the vote going, he's like, I gotta up.
It's
And
time to do it.
The buying is happening, and that to me, and I felt it too. Like I had rentals coming in, I had LPs with DEC, and that was coming in daily. And it was my DEC drip, and so then that would just go to pay for gold foil tourney rentals and everything else. I rarely have to buy DEC. That's not true anymore. I have to swap for DEC weekly, probably.
Yeah.
That behavior change is happening in the background right now. That's going to make a difference. It's almost like everything happens slowly until it happens all at once. We're just coiling the spring, which is really exciting.
Well, okay, so I want to do two things, and I want to make sure we can get to both of them because I know I'm going to forget. The first of which is I want to know what that spring looks like in the future to you, because we've already done the SPS airdrop, right? So what would be something that would give us that kind of momentum? Because personally for me, and this is probably just me trying to level set my own expectations, I can see a nice steady grind upwards over time, but I don't see anything like really popping off until, you know, the whole macro market changes and euphoria, like true euphoria, like there was in 2021 comes back in. And then the second thing, so I'm just gonna ask them both now. You can answer whatever order you want. Is because there was some talk about the DECB, and I actually didn't catch the stream between Rick and Dwayne, but you know, I'm a big fan. Did you watch that?
I did on Super Speed because I wanted to know. Babchat was talking about it, and so I wanted to at least know what.
Okay, well, actually, that's perfect then, because I wanted to get your thoughts on DECB as a whole. I know we've talked about it briefly. I'm a big fan of it. I know that it's not perfect, but the way that I explain it, especially for people who say like, oh, it's just a Band-Aid, I'm just like, well, you know, sometimes you need a Band-Aid, right? Like it's just, you need a Band-Aid to stop the bleeding until you can get proper healthcare, right? So to me, I would rather not wait until, you know, land comes out and all this stuff. I think it's a very suitable Band-Aid. So if you could just go through those two things. Those are my questions.
I'll start with the deck beat because that's kind of already been voted on, and it'll be pretty quick. So DECB, and just to be upfront with everybody, I was one of the Mavs in the background that Gene, Neil, and I discussed it a lot. Neil discussed it on his stream, and it was originally, I mean, DECB in my mind is a bond, right? So when you have an inflationary currency like fiat or anything else, which DEC is, you have a couple of levers to adjust, you know, the inflation. So just like the Fed would pull excess liquidation out of the marketplace by issuing bonds, then they just issue higher and higher interest rate bonds to encourage people to buy them so that the Fed takes the liquidity out
of the market,
and then that adjusts the prices in the marketplace. So it's a standard economic tool. So on that hand, it is. And then I know I was involved with Foyer's talk with you and being like, oh, this is just a gift to the whales. Well, it is a gift to the whales because they can do something with it, but I don't think it's just a gift to the whales. So
it's open to anybody, right? Like you can buy with a single DEC. So
and that's really the point. And honestly, the discussions I had in the background with Neil and Gene, and then we had the years of some team members as we were trying to work it through. We didn't consider vouchers. We didn't consider a steep discount at 20%. I mean, we were even thinking maybe 5% discount, if that, because personally for me, and it sounds silly, but if there's, you know, 100,000 DEC in my account, it's going to go to bids I have placed on Peak Monsters and Splex. So it's going to be spent. Yeah. I'm going to need DEC for land. And if I can buy it at, you know, 600 splintoshis, 700 splintoshis, I know I'm getting a discount now before demand is there, and I can put it into a bond so I don't see it. That's great. Yeah. You know, I have some on a liquidity pool to do just that. So there are some desire for that, but I think this DECB, what it does is the big thing in the debate between Dwayne and Rick is Rick came with a lot of numbers in a spreadsheet. And I love numbers in spreadsheet, but the assumptions were incorrect he admitted them in the stream, but that didn't change his spreadsheet. The assumption was DECB is equivalent to DEC in use case, and that's not true. DECB is more restrictive. It is only for burnable DEC purchases. So any purchase for a burnable. And now it's soulbound. Yeah, and that's actually also something we talked about in the background was we never considered trading. And so soulbound and not including vouchers was our version of the proposal. So this was a lot more generous than we even considered. So it's soulbound and it's only usable on burnable purchases. So now when you know that, we have to look at the economy as two different things. The DEC economy is the liquid supply of DEC changing hands. So the circulating supply of changing hand DEC. That's the marketplace, and it's the Chaos Legion pack, so a core pack sale to the company. So that's just changing of hands from us to the company holds it, and then they'll release it at some time when they have to do a credit swap or something like that. The burnable DEC is something different. So we have two economies now. DECB only cares about the burnable DEC.
Yeah.
The act of burning it to put it into DECB is pulling forward the demand of future burning activity to try to reduce the liquid circulating supply. So we're taking 2 billion out of the liquid circulating supply. Therefore, the remaining balance available for LP rewards for buying off the marketplace and CL packs is being reduced by, well, not 2 billion, but we'll say 1.6 down to what, 800 million if you use vouchers, whatever it comes out to.
Yeah.
So some range there. That's not insignificant. And so that's the idea. When we were talking about this in the background, and then I shared it in map chat, was this isn't the silver bullet. It is a band-aid. And just like you're saying, is we stop the bleeding, or at the very least, we have a subjective show that those 100 or 1,000 true fans are committed for the long term. We're putting our money up for the long term. If we see 100 or 500 accounts that have bought DECB, and we see DECB sell out before the time it's allowed to be sold, that is success. We're not going to see from this par, this alone.
I mean, it's not enough.
No, it's not enough. But it sets a floor, and where that floor is, I don't know. I mean, if I were to throw out a number, is DECB goes, I don't see us hitting a 450 Splintoshis value for DEC again. I mean, unless everything in the world collapses.
Yeah.
So aside from that, then we have essentially put in a floor at, say, 500 Splintoshis, if I were to throw out a number.
Sure.
This floor then says, okay, so what do we have for future demand that'll be proven by DECB? What do we have from our 100 to 1,000 true fans? They've put their money up for it, which we've done before. Like land sale phase 1 was this same thing. There was words that we bought land for, and lots of money was spent on land, and we did that for the game, and people held that land through very high prices.
Yeah.
So we have that 100 to 1,000 true fans, and when new players or investors come to this economy and they're like, okay, so what is this? Is this a rug pull? How does this work? Am I going to get ROI? Is this going to be fun? Can I build a Nifty arcade type thing around it? What can I do with it? That smart money is going to point to these sorts of behaviors and say that's stability for the long term.
Yeah.
That matters a lot more than the day's interaction of Mav chats squabbling. They don't care about that. They're going to look at, okay, so wait a minute. They locked up their in-game token for an unknown amount of time. Yeah, they got a discount, but they're committed to this phase of the company, and they knew it was 12 months out. That's good. Yeah. So that's why I'm so for DECB. I understand all the inflationary arguments. I understand, yes, you're printing more burnable DEC. That's all true. But what isn't true is that it has no effect, or the effect is not good enough to overcome those criticisms. Furthermore, when you introduce the time, I don't believe anybody really thinks that land is not going to have enough DEC sinks to absorb this inflation plus more. I'm thinking a factor of 10 or more. And in all honesty, the team has control of the sinks. They have control of how much it is. I don't think they're going to gouge us on it. You can just take guild buildings as they are and say, all right, if each plot was like a guild and just did that, or maybe did a 10th of a guild, you could estimate how much DEC would be burnt for 150 regions.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's more than anything we're talking about now. It's more than an existing supply of DEC. So from that perspective, is why I'm so passionate about DECB. I'm glad it passed. I'm excited to see the outcome of it. I will be disappointed if it doesn't sell out. I mean, that would hurt. But I'm fairly confident it will.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm the same with you. The same reservations of if it doesn't sell out well, it's like, oh, okay, maybe the community really is tapped out and we don't have that same kind of buy-in. But I'm not worried about the inflation of it. And let's look at a worst case scenario. Let's say vouchers purchased everything, right? If vouchers purchase everything, this comes up by the end of January, then we're looking at like 1.2 billion new DEC, and that is actually new DEC that is created or printed out of thin air, right? So, or printed from the vouchers. Now, as a node holder and as an SPS staker, I kind of like that for vouchers because I think there's some utility that'll be coming up for vouchers, so I can live with that, right? And that's why I'm saying it's difficult to look at it in just a vacuum. I'm just like, okay, well, it's going to help another token, but when we talk about the 1.2 billion, maybe even higher than that. Maximum 1.6 billion DEC that could be minted from this, right? I look at land and I'm just like, for each plot of land, is it outrageous to say that on the whole it would require 100,000 DEC? When you look at something like guilds, which again, yeah, so 100,000 DEC actually seems very reasonable to me as a sink for land to level up your buildings and have maintenance costs and all that. Because when you do that, then land is somewhere between like 10 to 15 billion DEC just with 100,000 DEC per plot.
Just for that first phase.
Yeah,
like I mean, they have a vision of a multi-year vision of land.
Yeah,
that's just the first phase.
Exactly, and what that does, what DECB or DECB is allowing us to do by pulling that demand up now is, well, it gives the team more time to figure out what other kind of sinks they can add, and maybe they won't even be land sinks, right? Maybe there'll be some other implementation that they offer, like we'll have like not guild alliances, but guild like nations or something, right? Like something that expands the gameplay, enhances the gameplay, builds bigger and larger sub communities, and actually adds value to the players and the player base.
Oh, for sure. And I think for those that weren't around when guilds were when brawls were introduced, so before brawls was just a guild.
When were brawls introduced? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think about a year before SPS, and they did it in 2 phases. So
when you joined in 2019, there was no brawls.
There were no brawls. It was just guilds, and guilds had come out 2 months before I joined, July, August, I think, something like that. And so guilds at that time were a way to get discounts on in-shop purchases through the lodge. That was and to have friends. I mean, that was pretty much it. And so groups that were already kind of doing in the background support things, like the Team Possible already had sort of an organization that would do delegations to new players or to people they knew or friends they would bring in. Well, once guilds started, then it became formal. So they joined the Team Possible Guild, and so now they had a place to talk, and all it was a guild hall and a lodge. And so when the requirements to be in a guild at that time were you pay a certain amount of dues just to help level up the buildings, and then you had a commitment to quests, which would give you the lodge, right? And so then that was a commitment to your buddies that, hey, we're going for the 15% max discount this time. We want to get here by day X in the season. Let's go, right? That was all guilds were. Then brawls came along. Brawls introduced those new buildings. So I see alliances as doing what brawls did. Now we're going to get new buildings. Now we're going to get new staking places and stuff like that. So the deck sinks are going to be there as well.
I'm curious, what when you daydream, I'm going to use this term, when you daydream about guild alliances, what do you see being in there? Outside, like, okay, the cynical part of me says, like, okay, guild alliances seem like an easy way to create more sinks just for the hell of having more sinks, right?
Sure.
because it's just like, well, there's about like Team Possible, for example, has a bunch of different things, right? So and I know Immortal Gods, TNA, so it makes sense
Summoner's
to group.
Tribe. You have a lot of guild groups.
There's a lot of guild groups, so it makes sense to find a way to group them all together and then make them pay more money into the system for something. Sure. What are those things that people will be paying for? Like, again, if you can daydream and not worry about the delivery time or whatever, like what can you see, or what do you see when it comes to guild alliances? Because we have brawls, which is nice, and that's not something that you saw when guilds were first there. So what could guild alliances bring?
So I actually haven't thought too much about it. So just off the cuff, I don't know if Weirdbeard's still in the audience, but I would say that's a big place for him and his gameplay aspects to come into it, because this would be shared trophy rooms. You would have shared goals to achieve, to meet certain levels of status as just a player, right? So this would be a lot of gameplay aspect, because that's what brawls were before. I mean, brawls, there was a money aspect to it because of the CP from the gladiators during the SPS airdrop. But after that, it's status, right? Yeah. And then it's a different sort of gameplay. A lot of the groups, and I don't know how they're going to do this, but what I envision as the next step for the game overall is when they come out with these season rentals and the other things. There's something that Yaba mentioned, 2+ years ago, where you would delegate an account. So scholarships, right? So before scholarships, Splinterlands had a program called the Herons program. It was the first in Web3. It's what scholars were before they knew that. Scholars, and it was from so TC Polymath and Neil, I think, did that, and Polymath had something about birds, so they called it a herons. And they would essentially delegate an entire set of cards that then they would work out the split. Well, with the Hive keychain, the idea would be you could click, I authorize this other account when that account uses their active key to use my posting key, which means they don't actually have login to your account. They don't have your key. They don't ever see it. That thing is something I would want to see as part of this rollout of alliances, because that would help like the YGG, the Nifty Arcade. I don't know how they're doing it, but in my mind, that's how they do it. And there might be some in the background with Hive that does that. But that ability to be able to share assets, to jointly earn, to get the good players who have the time but maybe not the money, they build up. So it's that sort of thing. Also, direct challenges of other guilds. I would say you can get in the tournament space. I want to see a more casual arena sort of area, like take the challenge tab and make that the kitchen table. Like Magic the Gathering is played around the kitchen table 99% of the time. Yeah. Not online, not in tournaments. It's 99% of the time. I have a buddy that's old school, MTG. He comes over, we do some yard work, and when the kids go to sleep, we play a game of Magic. And I just got back into playing Magic since playing Splinterlands. Nice. And it's so funny. But that's the only games I play. I don't go to a card shop. I don't play tournaments. We need the ability to do that. And so I'm hoping with Guild Alliances, that sort of casual play, that sort of banter, that sort of, even like if you were to get people on with headsets and you have that almost like card shop vibe where you have this rumbling noise of everybody doing their own games, but you're in this game. It's like that. Have you ever been to the Digicons?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so that interface is so neat for like a casual gameplay in my mind. You would have these little tables where you're like, oh, I'm going to go battle after sound. We're going to do best of 5, best of 10, Diamond League or Gold League. And so we go over to this table. We hear each other, but then there's just noise in the background like you're at a card shop. Right?
Yeah. It's very like non-VR metaverse type of thing.
Yeah,
where you just exist in this like virtual space that can be a casual hangout spot.
So that's what I hope with Alliances. I don't think that'll be phase 1. But I think there's some other folks that have been really pushing Alliances, likely driven by YGG or the Nifty guys. They probably asked them. They've probably been in the dev's ear on how to structure it. But then leaders of Team Possible, IG, Summoner's Tribe, we'll all figure out, okay, well, we're going to align all of Team Possible guilds and then make it easier for moving people in between. That's another problem, right? Is you have people that have contributed to a guild, and Team Possible, for example, if you start in a lower guild, hackers, diamond, something like that. I say lower than champ. And your goal is to get to champ. And you've contributed 100,000 DEC to those buildings of the other smaller guild. And you jump up to champ, it's like, well, did you not contribute because it's not to the champ buildings or to the champ pool? No, in Team Possible, we have a spreadsheet in the background that tracks, oh, well, this is your Team Possible contributions in total, and that counts for those. And there are some minimums for like the higher level guilds. That sort of thing is what Web3 solves. With shares of a guild, you essentially buy in a share, then you're in an alliance, and your share might be in one of the guilds or in the alliance as a whole, and then that can be sold. You have to buy someone out. If you want to kick someone out, okay, but you can buy them out. Foyer, I think, was talking about this.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic idea about like wanting a Web3 version of guilds, right? Like where you have ownership, because like let's be real. At the end of the day, your ownership of Team Possible, whatever guild that you're in, on that spreadsheet is just on that spreadsheet, right? Like if the guild leader decided to boot you tomorrow, there's technically nothing anybody could do about it unless Splinterlands wanted to get involved and do something on the back end.
Yeah.
So
you have a leader of a guild that has all the keys in the login and they disappear.
Exactly, or they become inactive or something. So I am all for that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what kind of dev work that would take, but there's a lot of investment, and I don't even want to talk about like only financial, right? Like it's just a lot. People put in a lot of time and effort to build in these guilds, and I think that will only continue to grow in the future. And so if there's a way to find, not that I want new tokens, but if there's a way to tokenize ownership of the guilds, right? I think that could be an interesting way to move forward in the future, where it's just like, I've contributed a lot, and if I decide to leave or you decide to kick me out, I want to make sure that I'm getting something in return for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that when I came into Team Possible, they'd already set that up. They set up a DAO before DAOs existed, and it was on a 5-year plan, essentially. They had a Team Possible token, and they just can create it on Hive Engine, and it represented the assets that were in the Team Possible Guild accounts. And those cards were available for delegation or prizes for contributions to the members. And then as you've put in time to the guild and you put in dues, then each year was a distribution of tokens based on the investment. It was, I mean, it was a great idea, but it was clumsy in execution because it was new. The first person in will always get the lion's share, right? Someone like me, unless I put up hundreds of thousands of dollars, wouldn't get shares into it reasonably relative to my contributions. But that's something that I think has been improved as Web3 has matured. There are ways to account for that. But actually in the chat, Virus actually mentioned something really interesting, the alliance building. That vaults to allow rentals within guilds or delegations. And that'd be wild to include gladiator cards. I don't think they'll go for that. But yeah, just being able to pick from a vault of assets, being like, hey, I need this Lamacron or something for the silver brawl, and boom, you got it. Instead of right now, it's all in Discord. You hit people up. You're like, all right, I'm in this fray now, and work it out. And sometimes it doesn't happen in time. Having an alliance building that basically tags a card that said this is part of that group, then allows for anyone in the alliance to borrow it. That'd be wild.
Yeah, I like that idea too, and I agree with you that there probably wouldn't. I don't think they would touch gladiator cards, but we are rounding the corner here on soulbound reward cards and people wanting a little bit more access to them. So that could be something where it's just like, while cards are currently in print and considered soulbound or not unlockable, there is an opportunity for you to share, them with other people within your guild, maybe especially at the lower leagues.
For sure.
Give me one
So
second.
Get back to
go ahead.
your other question. So we took care of deck B. If you wanted to talk about that spring, so what's the launching point? Okay, so to me, we define the problem. What is the problem right now? The problem is anemic demand. Until demand returns, there's not going to be any sort of pop in token value or any sustainable token value or asset appreciation in the marketplace. It's just simple supply demand. And so we have a bubble to overcome with a lot of supply. And it's not just the overprinting of Chaos Legion and other things. It's even, you take the use case of alpha, beta, and early promos. Wild's league right now is paying out so much more per battle. There's so fewer players. There's so fewer battles in Wild right now that this is the highest per battle that my account's getting as it's climbing the ranks in Champion. You don't use those cards in Modern, and over half of the frays in a Brawl don't include the alpha betas or can be reasonably fought without them. So I think that the anemic demand is basically the active players and accounts right now have what they need. The acquisitions happening from the marketplace are future speculation. So that's what I'd say steady state is right now. What I see as the spring is all of these things coming out, such as player proposals at a cost of 100,000 DEC. The Alliance, Guild Alliance buildings being somewhere on the roadmap, land coming out being on the roadmap, land potions being on the roadmap. This is the spring being coiled. When that happens, you will have days, maybe weeks to respond. And then before you know it, the whales and their friends will come in and buy out the discount. That's what I think.
For Chaos Legion, right?
I would say for DEC. I'm thinking DEC.
Oh, for DEC.
Back to pars is, I see that as the fundamental, that's the foundation for the economy. Chaos Legion, I think that's going to burn. Like, there's no more.
There's just not much demand for it anymore.
There's no demand, I feel, for buying the packs. They'll be given out in rewards, and the rest is going to burn, for the most part. The interesting part is going to be, and I mean, this is the stuff that I talked to some of my friends in the ecosystem. And as you know, I co-run the Venari Syndicate investment into the game. And so that's accredited investors who have no knowledge of crypto have put their money in with Venari Syndicate to deploy into the ecosystem. So we put in rental cards, nodes, other things. And so we have a pool of very high net worth people that have expressed interest. Hey, what is this Web3? What is this blockchain gaming? And so we touch base with them every quarter. When a spring like this starts to pop, that's when that money comes in.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be like SPS. SPS was ridiculous. You had a raging bull run in the hottest area of a hot market. So the hottest area being gaming inside crypto.
Yeah.
And then we had a new token that you could buy other assets to get airdrop free token. That's not going to be repeated.
Exactly.
So I think I calculated it. It was about a 50 to 75x at the highest from May to August of asset values. So anybody who sold then, very, very good move. I did not. So, but nevertheless, this spring is something that you see in all markets, and I think is much more sustainable. Is keep your eyes and ears on steady movement, and it's just like you did on that chart. Is even if it's just spots, if we see trends in the upward direction, it's better to be slow and steady growing than boom and bust. Boom and bust is not sustainable, but slow and steady growth is what we want to see, especially now when demand seems low. And then all this stuff is coiling. So we can just start stacking. All right, what are the things that are going to need DEC on what time frames? And then what is your plan, like you being, what is one's plan as a part of the, as a player or an account in the ecosystem? What is your plan for taking advantage? We have time now. Anybody who's involved right now are the lucky ones. I mean, if you think the game's going to survive, right? Yeah. So we'll qualify that. So the game survives, then you're the lucky ones. You will be deemed an early adopter by somebody who comes after the spring has popped. After DEC is no longer easily available to a player to come in and just be like, oh, I need to buy something off the market. Because what happens then is if DEC is hard to get, they'll buy credits. That's actually the best thing for the company. then the company is strengthened. The company brings in more employees. The employees start delivering product more. More product, more delivery increases the game appeal to players. Then the new players coming in start that cycle. Once the players are in, then my hope is it's players first and then crypto enthusiasts.
Yeah.
The bull run brought crypto enthusiasts who were players. They didn't stay around.
Yeah.
So this time it's players coming in who learn crypto and the value of asset ownership. And then they're like, wait a minute. So take this soulbound card. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I've voiced my opinion on what should be done is powering up soulbound cards at some level, probably not at when you first get it. So some time or some level of the card that you can power it up with its burn value, maybe burn value plus extra, and some vouchers. I think vouchers should be part of it.
Yeah.
Then it is an NFT. And as an NFT, comes with it all available capabilities. You can trade it, you can delegate it, you can sell it, you can do whatever you want with the NFT. You could burn it again and receive the burn value of the card. That's fine. You have free use of it. That mechanism does not inflate the underlying DEC currency. So
that's why I love it, and I hope they go with that.
So we're protecting the end-game stable coin, the liquidity currency. So what we use for exchange, which then drives the new players or players who want to buy something off the market that, okay, if I'm going to do it with DEC, my option is to take SPS winnings and do that. Or I found SPS on an exchange my crypto because we're starting a new bull run and I bought this token for $10. It's now 15. I want to take that 15 and go spend it in Splinterlands. So I'll trade it for SPS and burn into DEC. Now I can buy stuff on the marketplace. Going forward, my opinion, nothing should be purchasable in SPS. Nothing. SPS is staking and voting. That's it. The reason SPS became a purchase option for Rift Watchers and all that mess is because when they introduced the post about Rift Watchers, we were, August? It was almost at the same time as Chaos Legion launch, or
it was December 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was early on before they had come up with the whole flywheel concept.
Right. So it was pre-flywheel. It seemed to align with Chaos Legion. Like Chaos Legion was pre-sale into phase 1 or somewhere in between.
And Chaos Legion was sold for SPS. Sorry to cut you, but Chaos Legion was sold for SPS2 because of the fact that DEC was so high above peg.
Yes.
That they were never going to charge 4,000 DEC.
Yeah. So they had that SPS option, and you could buy it that way, and then the vouchers for the pre-sale. That's exactly the reason. Is DEC was so broken from its par value, they couldn't stick to their plan of things being sold in DEC at a consistent DEC value. Yeah. There are some ideas being thrown around of like, if we were to switch over Rift Watchers to DEC, how do we do it in a fluctuating scale? And that gets really complicated. That's someone like Foyer or Neil or even better economist to figure out. But
I just don't know why they didn't. They should have switched it to DEC at market value. Like that should have been suggested right after that other one failed. Because it's like,
I think so. Yes.
I bought the argument that it should be done in DEC, but as somebody who bought during the pre-sale, I could understand the argument of like, this is a little soon. But if you want to sell in DEC, that's fine. Just sell it at market value the way that you're doing with SPS.
Virus just said Gene Pool posted the proposal. So
okay. Let me pull that up. I feel like I interjected there if you're finishing the point.
No, I wasn't. I got distracted.
All right, so let me see in Mav chat. I'm assuming that there's going to be a post for this as well, right?
Maybe
a Hive post.
Oh, there is. It should be a link to the Hive post. Yep, yeah. There we go.
Sorry, my computer is not pulling up Mav chat for some reason.
Oh, here I can send it.
If you have the link, you can send it to me here in the private chat, and then I'll pull that up.
There you go. So it's titled SPS Proposal. SPS DAO should stake an additional 28 million SPS for staking rewards.
Hold on, how come I don't see the link here?
Oh, did it not come through?
Oh, did you put it in the comments?
No, I put it into direct messages in Discord.
Oh, whoops. That's right. I was looking.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there's the studio.
Yeah,
I've never
no, you're
used
good.
Studio.
You're good. Let me go ahead and copy this and paste it into the browser. And I'll need to share my screen too. Here we go. All right. So you want to walk us through this?
I'll try. I saw the free version. We'll see.
I was just giving you
We'll
that. I mean, I could do it.
We'll see what changes he put in. Oh, good. And it's formatted like we discussed. All right. So this proposal is for the SPS DAO account to stake an additional 28 million SPS for a total of 30 million stakes. So according to, and he provides pictures below, the DAO already has some staked SPS.
It does. Okay.
Yep. 2 million. So this is to do a lion's share. Over 50% of total SPS would then be staked. So the idea would be to, I mean, I'm going to summarize it. It's got a long thing of what's the current stake. Got about 50% APR with this 30 million SPS between the SPS and the vouchers. Let's see what he said about. Oh, but the other thing he's also talking about is you also have that GLX. So the 50% comes from SPS, vouchers, and GLX.
And GLX, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he got into what to do with GLX.
So let's see, current state and desired outcomes. So according to Splex, 58 million SPS at the time of this writing. I thought there was more than that. Oh, never mind. I was thinking about burned SPS. So Splinter Card staking calculator shows that 30 million SPS would yield 50% APR. Potential reason to support. There are many opportunities for utilizing the additional revenue, but the scope proposal for. So essentially, you want the DAO to be earning something over time with the SPS that it has.
Well, that's the proposal. I didn't put this up. I didn't contribute to it, so I won't take any credit for that. But I think it's an interesting idea and should get a discussion going, which is how does the DAO support its funding efforts to reward play and to pay for third-party development after the 60th month of the airdrop, right? And so I won't say the airdrop, the distribution, right? So during this time, and if we are looking at all future in-game products being sold for TEC, then there's not going to be another Riftwasher sale for SPS that goes to the DAO. So it is an important question to be like, all right, so how is the DAO going to fund itself? And this is the question for all DAOs. And I think there have been some Mavs in Mav Chat that have been like, oh, well, there's a couple of other big DAOs that have been around for a few years that have been trying to answer this question. We should really be thinking about it now.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Why was 2 million already staked? I mean, that must have been a unilateral decision made by the team then, right? Likely. And yeah. I'm just curious when that was made and why it was made, and it was only 2 million. I mean, I'm not here's the thing. I'm not opposed to this. My whole point is that the money sitting in the DAO is literally doing nothing to help the game or the economy right now, and I just want it to be used for something. So staking SPS, I think, is fine because as we've talked about, that will allow some kind of sustainability in the future, at least for the next 60 or however many remaining months there are for SPS staking. I had the same initial thought though as Stever. We take a pay cut and the DAO gets a pay raise because
that is the exact concern, and that was what I was talking with Gene about before when he put in the proposal, is to make sure that he put it in there, which he did, which is what is the opposition to it and what is the trade-off. So is there a bigger benefit? So really the proposal is, do you as a stakeholder in SPS feel that we should take a pay cut for the future value and tokens in the DAO or not? That's really what it is.
I wonder though, is staking SPS a good use of the DAO's funds when you compare it in an A to B test with providing liquidity?
So doing a liquidity pool.
Yeah. So at least some of the SPS, SPS BNB, SPS, but mainly because right now, in order to reinvest into those pools, for example, right? In order to compound, the one thing I always say is that, of course, SPS is going to go down, because even for someone like me who wants to compound and reinvest further in the game, I have to sell half my SPS every day, or all of my SPS if it's a DEC liquidity pool, right? Whereas you could just take X amount from the DAO that could provide that liquidity, not compound, but just allow itself to keep on continuing receiving the SPS rewards and not sell it on the secondary market. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
So there is an argument to be made, and I think that's a valid discussion to have around this proposal, is, all right, if one agrees that we need to come up with income generating things for the DAO, then is there an A/B test for a liquidity pool versus SPS staking, right? I think one of the variables is the staking is coming with GLX, so that's one thing. And then based on that behavior and what Aggie and the team have said, is going forward, as they launch new titles, staked SPS holders will have access to those new tokens. So we have a potential future revenue from that as well, beyond just an LP percentage. And an LP percentage is going to go down from now until the 60th month. Every month it loses 1%.
Well, right? Same with SPS staking, though.
It does, but that's where the other side of it comes in, of the extras.
Now, the other interesting thing to consider with this is, okay, so let's say they're both roughly 50%, right? If we were to do SPS Hive, I think that's around the 50% range as well. So if you look at the APRs as they currently stand, they are equivalent in this snapshot of time. But in one side, you're receiving all SPS. On the other side, you were receiving vouchers and GLX. And my argument would be that there's no benefit for the DAO to be holding either of those tokens. So they end up becoming net sellers of both of those tokens.
Well, then that's the question for the DAO, right? And I think Gene put in there a line that there will be a separate vote for what to do with those assets.
Sure.
So I don't think in this proposal is to sell those, but that could be something that'll be decided.
Well, my point is, like, what are we going to do with a GLX token in the SPS DAO is what I'm saying. Unless at some point we would choose to sell it. With the vouchers, we could, as a community, just be like, just burn it, right? Like, we don't want that sell pressure, but go ahead, just burn it. Take one for the team. But
then you would have to consider that in terms of an ROI.
Exactly. It takes away from the yield. Yeah. So,
but I mean, it's an option. The other thing is the 50% is calculated after this amount goes into the staking pool. We'd have to do that calculation of the impact on the LP. So we don't know. It would definitely drop. I think when we were looking at the LP, this amount is equal to the LP, if I'm remembering. My conversation.
28 million is a lot.
Yeah. So, and you split that in half and then dump it in, you're going to cut the APR in half. Okay. And to get to that position, you also have to trade into the other tokens, which will introduce slippage. So there's a lot of other calculations that go into putting into an LP. I agree that LPs are critical for sustainability of an economy. And I think that part of this type of proposal is we have an opportunity of evaluating this proposal and saying, all right, what are the variables in here that somebody would vote no unless you change this? So one of them is like 28 million. Well, what if someone would vote if we did 10 or did 20 million, right? So it's a question of how can we use this proposal not just to look at, okay, that's a neat idea, but also test the whole process of proposals.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because your ideas are good. How do we take this and say, all right, Gene put this up, it's a yay or nay, green light or red? No, that's not, we don't need that. We need something that's more dynamic and organic, especially with this many details. So how are we going to do that?
Sure. I wasn't thinking through the numbers and all the implications. Just in previous conversations, the DAO providing liquidity, or actually the team providing liquidity, seemed like something that made sense to reduce the sell pressure on SPS, in my opinion. But it comes with its own host of problems. So to your point, like, a lot of this stuff would have to be thought through. But the best part is, look at us. We're sitting here talking about potential solutions rather than just, the game's going to do this.
Complaining about the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And 100,000 DEC was just sent over to null.
100,000
that
DEC
part.
was just burned, and we're having this conversation about it. So
it's a win-win right there.
Well, the thing is, it truly is, because something like this, I don't know something like this should take zero dev work. It will take a little team time to actually implement the changes that we decide on, but to me, this is constructive, right? Rather than us just arguing about it in map chat. It's just like, well, let's actually run through the numbers. Like, people who are way smarter than me in numbers, like we'll what's that called? We'll crunch through them, and then we can have a more informed decision on like what we do. And again, I'm not even saying that I'm opposed to this. It's just, it sparked the idea for LPs, right? So just
I think that's a great idea, because
just the fact that the conversation is being had now, which can lead to something like immediate implementation, probably, hopefully within a couple of weeks, if this were to pass, would be awesome.
For sure. It's like Virus was saying in this, I keep calling him out, but he's the most active I've seen, is if Rift Watchers were sold for DEC, now you have DEC and SPS sitting in the DAO, and there's some map chat going on right now that says, well, why would the DAO want to hold DEC? Well, it could put in the LP, exactly what you're talking about. Give stability there. And so as long as the company and the DAO, and I think it should shift to the DAO, is able to create that stability for the LP, and it gets rewarded for doing that, then that's a great place to hold the assets.
Yeah, agreed. All right, hold on. Let's catch up on chat here. I'm going to start with the most important one. No, I did not poop my pants yet. I don't know why that is the expectation, but just wanted to give you a very clear response. So gave industry, we take a pay cut. I thought the mini packs were always supposed to be sold for SPS to keep funding. That's how I thought things would go too. But now it sounds like if everything's sold in DEC, the DAO ends up holding DEC, and at some point will have to be a seller or burner of DEC. But burning wouldn't give it any value. So it would have to sell DEC to buy SPS, which would hurt DEC short term, but also boost SPS. Which would be kind of crazy, because how many people would front run that if we know that it was a proposal coming in? Didn't the team just sell off a bunch of DEC to fund LPs? Correct. That I would have to do the same with SPS. Yeah, I know, but we all are ready for SPS to be in the gutter for a minute. In general, I think staking is better than LP because DAO needs to grow its SPS. Then I would vote that we become an LP provider with GLX token. That's an option too. I wonder when the GLX stuff is gonna,
because that is something we can do, which is a really good point, is take the GLX, take the vouchers, and then we convert SPS to Hive on a regular basis, some standard thing, and then that thing goes to fund the LPs of those respective tokens.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ways we can go about this now, but like I said,
and what's good about all these options, they're not permanent. If we don't like it, we just undo it.
and somebody's got to pay 100,000 DEC to undo it.
Hey, I'm all for that.
Cool. So this is the one. This is the one you were talking about.
This is the one I was talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we went back and forth this morning, and I think from this. So what I would encourage for anybody that want to take this on is you have the meat and potatoes of, okay, what is this proposal? But to me, I'm a systems guy. I'm process, like, how do we do things, do it once so that it can be repeated 10 times easily? How does this read for everybody? Is the structure good? Is it clear? Are there variables in it that we might want to break out into subcomponents or subvotes? And then how would we do that? So I look towards, folks like you, After Sound, the people engaged in the chat that are engaged in this community. That should be the conversation that's also happening right now, because this is the first proposal that came out, and I think it's structured well, but we can always improve, and then we can use this as a very good test case that is also positive for the community, and then would hopefully, like, if we had a blueprint, like if you had a template for this is how to put together a proposal, and it just went up somewhere where every guild had it, then a lot of other folks might be more encouraged to put together a proposal they have, running around their noodle, but they don't know how to put it onto a post. Well, here's the format. Go. Yeah.
Relatively straightforward, something easy to do, requires no dev work. At least this one doesn't. But I like it. it makes me happy that literally as soon as it went live, everyone just shut up and was like, all right, well, now
Wasn't
it's
that funny?
yeah, now it's time to actually put these ideas forward, right? Like you can
Yeah.
spout off as much as you want in on Discord, but like if no, the moment it becomes real, where people are actually going to vote on your idea, people are like, I'm not going to share my idea just
Right.
yet. Let me think it through a little bit more.
Right, exactly. And for those that are like, oh, the 100,000 DEC is too high, that's something that a group can pull together.
Yeah.
Right. So your guild, the other players you chat with here, 5,000 here, 10,000 there. I mean, it's not too much of a burden, and you put it up. So I think I'm hoping that this breaks the dam, and we see a lot more coming. And I see real success being when the team comes in and says, "You guys are doing so great with this, let's slow it down." too many proposals to consider.
When you have awesome ones like this, I mean, you know what, Dennis, I will vote whatever you want me to vote. As long as you go through and burn that DEC, I will vote for whatever whatever you choose. Weird beard or weird goatee, whatever will make you happy, I will vote in line with you. So I am all for it, man. I'm also excited about. Well, we were talking about the Soulbound reward cards being like no longer DEC inflationary. I have a question for you, and I don't want to press you on I don't want to press you on giving like a prediction necessarily, but with the roadmap that we have now available to us, if you could give a realistic timeline for when you think we would actually reach par, is that something with all the stuff that we have in Q1, Q2, Q3 that you think we would achieve in 2023, or is this like a 2024 problem that we're going to solve?
I'd be comfortable saying 2024. If I were to put it sometime in 2023, independent of the external economy, because that's going to play into it, right? It requires new demand. New demand is new players. New players have to have disposable income and know about the game and opportunity. So there's two things. And where that 100 to 1,000 core fans comes in isn't just creating a foundation that's, stable. It's that when really exciting things happen, each one of those true fans tells 5 to 10 other people.
Yeah.
That's the marketing that works. I appreciate Chatter. He's a great guy. I appreciate marketing, but nothing is as good as saying, hey, come check this out. Or we have a challenge environment that says, hey, come over here. I want to play a battle and this will be fun. Or like I was at, actually someone in the chat is a family member, and got him introduced because we're at a family gathering, and I pull out the phone and I'm like, check out this battle. When you have that engagement, you're excited about that then brings demand. So it's really a question to how soon the team will be able to deliver the lower barrier gameplay that gets our core base excited again. That's what I think gives us the first inklings that we're going to reach par. Hopefully that's Q3. Hopefully.
Yeah, well, so when I look at this, and again, we're not making predictions here, guys, but just trying to look at some anchors for the year. And actually, let me go ahead and pull this back up, because I think it'll be helpful. But when looking out at the year, the big DEC sinks, in my opinion, that could potentially drive a lot would be guild alliances, which is kind of like on the smaller side, but guild alliances, rebellion, which is not a sync, but if it's sold at 4,000 DEC per pack or something similar, that could drive a lot of demand just because it's a new set. And then of course land. So I get excited for what the end of Q1 could be like, with Chaos Agent burning and selling out, into the end of Q2, which is when we would potentially get more stuff with guilds, guild alliances, and then into Q3 when we would have rebellion and then land. They're saying land in Q3, which would be awesome, but I don't know if I'm as optimistic as Q4. They are. Yeah, Q4. So there's like different anchors at the end of Q2 and Q3 and then Q4. But
the difference is if Deck B goes, and then in Q2 into Q3, we get the white paper that details the expenses needed for plots. And then we propose another Deck B. Then we can get more liquidity pulled out of the market. We have tools.
That is my hope too. I'm actually very excited about Deck B because I have been, and here's the thing: there's a lot of people who are like very passionately against it, right? And so I'm just like, I understand how you feel. The majority voted against you, right? So the majority disagree with you, but I want to know now, right? And I will do the opposite exercise if people ask me to. But I want to know if you were somebody that voted against DECB. I'd like for you to objectively look at the situation and say, what are the parameters in which it achieves X, Y, and Z that I would say I was wrong, right? Like that I will say I was wrong and Deck B ended up being a good idea. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or at least not be as devastating as you think it is.
Exactly.
I'm fine with neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Low expectations, just neutral, because I don't. The downside of it was it's not going to break anything because the inflation is not readily available to the current liquid economy. It actually does the opposite. And so
the
all
soulbound thing sold me.
Yeah, exactly. You've pulled any chance of excess liquidity, except for folks like you in your position. You're like, oh, we can upgrade a building, but in actuality, that's a positive for gameplay. Mm-hmm. That is stretching you and your guild mates to be like, we're improving a building, which gives you maybe another 2 slots for guild members, gives you more brawl capabilities where you're going to be more engaged. So that is engagement. That's a win. I don't see giving a discount for that to push somebody over the edge today is bad.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, ultimately, as you said, or as I think Yvonne said something similar as well, like, if you are buying the ECB, you are voting with your money to show that you are committed to burning that DEC for something in the game, right? Whereas I could understand the argument when it was not soulbound, where it's probably opportunity for arbitrage and market manipulation and all that, but that's gone now. Now the only people buying are the ones that intend on spending it for some kind of in-game value, which is exactly what we want, right? Like you're talking about the whole investors versus players, and so now like. It's the players, it's the guild leaders or guild members that will want to upgrade their buildings, upgrade their alliances, save up for land, whatever the case is. So that value is being burned off the available market and going into the hands of only people who are planning to stick around for the long term.
For sure. And I think that's a good point, is a pure investor is no longer interested in DECB. Right. There's no arbitrage. On the other side, though, I accept and I understand Yava's point, and I agree with it, is when you have a large stake in anything, so having an out is always good. So there will be people that won't buy as much DECB as they would have because there isn't an out for it. Exactly. However, I think that'll be equal to or even overcome by the people that said, if it isn't soulbound, I'm not participating. So I think it goes either way.
Yeah,
I think we're good.
Well, my hope was that they would get something with alliances out by the end of Q1. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So my hope is that we get Q2 now, mainly because if there is immediate utility, then I feel like the ECB is gone like that, because it's just like, oh, I can do something with it right now and show that it has immediate utility and it has value to me, right? And we're all helping the economy as well.
For sure. I'm looking at Map Chat here and seeing how much discussion has happened just since the post, and it's a lot.
It's a lot. Oh, I'm gonna have to go
and they're already talking about the stuff you mentioned. Are we putting the extra tokens into LPs? What if we did LPs instead of? And Gene Pool actually responded, because this was something I missed in the discussions. It was happening kind of the time your stream was going live. So he said the slippage is pretty significant in an LP. It means you lose $500 in every 25,000 you swap. So if you're gonna move a lot of money in, and it's something that like there is a concern to that, and it does actually help your argument of eventually getting DAO funds to support LPs so that they're deeper. Bringing multiple thousands or to the $10,000 level into this game in the form of tokens is expensive, just because of slippage. It's something that I had to do with the fund, and it became a multi-day process of bringing enough money in that it didn't rock the boat too much.
Yeah, because you just lose value right off the bat.
Right. And we want those ETH whales. We want the people from the other chains that are kind of sitting by till everything starts taking off again. We want them to see what's going on here and come in, but they're not. Crypto people like that aren't going to come in with $100.
Mm-hmm.
The $100 coming in is a player. We want a lot of those. $10 is a player. We want a lot of those. But the core of a business that's profitable is those high revenue generating customers.
Yeah.
And you do that with it's like an airplane. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
hates walking past first class and seeing how they were treated, and they're like, I gotta go sit in the back. But the truth of the business model is those first class passengers paid for the entire flight. They did. They booked the flight at the last moment. They flew so much that year that there was a free upgrade because they spent so much with the airline. That's just the way of business. And so you can not like it, but that's what it is. We need for that next, you talk about that spring. We are lucky that we will see the spring coiling and we will see the spring starting to pop before the people external to the economy do.
Yeah.
When those people see it, they will jump in, and then it will no longer be an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that'll benefit, but that'll be a great day.
That'll be the time where you decide if you want to make your gains real, right? As opposed to.
No, that's a good point. I was actually thinking about this on the first of the stream, so I'll give you this story. I was absent of Discord for about 4 days because I was actually on a family vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And the vacations, we go on an annual vacation now that I use Splinterland's assets to pay for the entire thing. And so I do OTC transactions, and I appreciate the friends I've met that need tokens here, tokens there. So even in a down day, I'll get all these pings that are like, oh, are you selling DEC today? Are you selling SPS today? And even though I know the token's down, I still force myself to sell some. Yeah. Because you have to exercise the you have to exercise the muscle of releasing a grip on the money. Yeah. If you don't practice that, you will not do it when the bull is raging. You have to practice that. Okay? That's your ice cream fund. That's
exactly it, right? It's putting in the discipline now because I didn't have it during the bull run. I got too greedy. Oh, SPS is at $1. Everybody's talking about $10. Let's go, right?
Yeah, and Map Chat was literally talking about yachts and islands and everything else. And Book, he was like, I promised myself I would sell whenever anyone's talking about private yachts, but I just can't. Yeah. And we all just kept on going down with it. But so practicing that muscle. But we did get back. So we went to Grey Wolf Lodge. That's our place to go with the kids. We've got 4 kids, and we do it out. We're talking the suite, cabana both days. We actually had a group of friends that were coming out. We had 3 cabanas lined up and connected them all together. And it was funny because they messed up on something. We go to the front desk to be like, can you help us in that? They called the manager, like, they had a problem. They rented 3 cabanas today. We were probably the highest spender there of the day. And I was telling all the families there, I was like, I got this from a crypto game. I literally, I just collected over months to the year. And it's not much. It's like $50 here, $100 there. But you add it up on little chunks, don't care about the token price. Yeah. And when you hand that over, for me, when I hand that over to my wife and say, here's the budget, and she's like, that's way more than enough. I'm like, exactly. Yeah. Now she has no problem with me playing the game.
Now she's like, is it time for you to play your game yet?
Oh, exactly. She actually has an account. Yeah.
She does.
Yeah, she plays.
The monkey, was it?
Butt Monkey.
Butt Monkey. So there you go.
If you lose to Butt Monkey, then you've played her, and she did choose that username. So it's really funny.
No, solid advice, man. I like I said, I think it's just like, why are we playing a play to earn game if you're not going to try to have benefits in the real world?
If you have that mindset that this is supposed to earn you something, you have to treat yourself to selling. Mm-hmm. If you don't do that, you will be in a constant state of disappointment. Yeah. Right? You have to reward yourself. And you're completely you're completely in control of that. Mm-hmm. Even if you feel bad that, oh, well, this token was worth 20% more last week, it doesn't matter. Get that hit that says, I sold this, it's in fiat and it's stable. Because there will be times when you sell it and you feel like you're down. Next week it goes another 20% down. Now you feel like a genius. Yeah. It's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
And the opposite happens too when you're like, I should have sold it on my usual day of selling this week, and then it went down, and it's like, now I don't feel like selling it anymore.
You think you're so smart. I'm going to hold out for a day, and it's like, oh no, Fed chair talked today, and everything tanked. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So exactly.
Makes sense.
Let's see. What is it? Splinterfest: The Coming Rebellion.
They just posted something on there. I think this is a Splinterfest panel, so there's probably just some video from that. So a couple months late, but for those who didn't attend,
that is so unfortunate about that.
The video. Yeah,
that's so awful. But then that makes the Walking Keys and all those other videos that were done,
so much more special. Yeah,
so special.
Yeah, I was on that creative call when like the video guy on the team was just like, yeah, like the files are corrupted, and we're all just like, wait, what?
Oh no,
that sucks. We've been waiting so long, and he's like, do they have another copy? And so it just ended up being this like, oh my gosh moment. So, cool, man. Well, I actually have to run. It's almost noon here for me. I got a couple things to take care of.
Flies.
I'm telling you, man. That's just how the streams go. But see, now you know it too, and I really appreciate you coming on. I know this is the first time we've had a chance to chat, but it was an absolute pleasure for me. I hope we can do it again at some point in the future.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
But yeah, you got Axler here in the comments saying thanks for the help with his fire deck.
Yeah, he needs to be maxing that out. He's got another week or two and it'll be maxed.
I need to work on maxing out the rest of my deck as well. So I'll be doing that. And State of Survival is going to wait until $50 vouchers to sell.
That's funny.
I posted videos of the fest. I took on my phone. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks again for coming through. For everybody here in the chat, I'll be back live this weekend, hopefully. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Thursday, Friday, and upcoming weekend ahead. Catch up with y'all soon.
Appreciate it.